It's Africa Tech Friday. Technological innovation is becoming a major economic and social development accelerator in Africa. Recent advances in digital connectivity, even among the poor, show the promise of open, collaborative business models to scale and commercialize innovations. Innovation Center points related to multinational partnerships offer formal open doors for Africa's startup companies to scale up their advancements, as sub-Saharan Africa's economy is commanded by the casual division, which makes up 64% of total national output and 70% of vocationing. It all sounds like a lot of technological jargon and also technological internet jargon, I must say. But let's go to the man who understands what I'm talking about. Joining us to discuss the possibilities, beg your pardon, the woman who knows what I'm talking about, who discusses the possibilities of Africa's startups scaling their businesses. Communications Manager, Google South Africa, Mich Atagana, joins us now on Network Africa. Mich, thank you for joining us on the program. I am so glad it is a woman. I almost thought I'm used to talking to men when it comes to Africa Tech. Great to have you on the program. Now, do you think that African startups can scale the face of globalization?
Thank you so much for having me. And I think most people are used to talking to men about the subject. I think for African startups, it's such a fascinating question to discuss. How do African companies scale, and scaling, what does that mean for a global audience? How can a company that starts in the middle of nowhere in a tiny little town in Nigeria or Kenya or Uganda, how can that company and the product that they offer be useful and valuable to someone who living in Wisconsin? And that is, I think, the fundamental thing when we think about Africa's tech scene and the growth of Africa's tech scene is what makes a company scale, what makes people want to use it, and how do you export the things that we produce. The way I like to look at it is we are so focused on how we build global companies, we forget that there are close to 1 billion people on this continent. So how do we build companies that can scale within Africa first, and then that company naturally should be able to grow globally? How do we solve problems that every human being wants? So you have to look at the kind of businesses that people are building. Some businesses are built for large audiences. Some products are built for smaller audiences. What problems are businesses trying to solve? So if we look at communication is a human need almost. People want to communicate with each other. So if we're building products that work around communication, logically they should be able to scale if it is worthwhile and useful enough. Then you think about products that solve basic human needs, so healthcare related products.
But do you think these startups have the right kind of supports and infrastructure?
Absolutely. So that takes me to my second point, which is an environment that allows them to foster. It's all good and well for a kid who's sitting somewhere in Uganda to come up with the next big thing. But if there's no support and no stability and infrastructure for him to actually build that, there is no way for him to scale. So the ecosystem must be conducive to growth. The ecosystem must be conducive to investment in such talent and the growth of that talent. Just because there's so many startups that fail every day, even the ones that are built in Silicon Valley. Hundreds of startups fail every day, and not every startup scales. We see the success stories. We don't actually see the stories that get left by the wayside. But what Africa needs more than thinking about how to build global companies is how we make sure we foster the companies that are being started, that they do have a chance on the global stage.
Would you recommend a type of knowledge exchange program between select startups and companies such as the one that you're running?
Absolutely. So I think most tech companies do have a way that they work with entrepreneurs to make sure that these things are happening. So at Google, we have something called Google for Entrepreneurs, which helps spaces that foster these kind of entrepreneurs, that foster these kind of growth and this kind of thinking. Other tech companies around the world do the same thing. They think about how they can help, especially those who are working in Africa and developing world. How can we help empower that economy? Because when you think about it, technology is really key for us. And companies that currently exist only have so much capacity to employ people. So the companies that are coming up are the ones that will employ the people of the future. And Africa's youth unemployment rate is ridiculously low right now.
It is.
And these startups are the companies that will grow to employ those people.
Mich, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you for having me.
And that's the show today. Thanks for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.